So okay. So Mooladharaika Nilaya. So she is in the Mooladhara. She is resting there, and we have also talked about the three-coiled serpent with the snake head holding the tail, and we have also connected that with the representation of Kundalini in many of the Saguna forms. We've talked about Shiva wearing the snake, Mahavishnu sleeping on the Ananta. We've talked about Ganesha wearing a snake as a Yajnopavitam or around his belly. And of course, Subramanya is the Sarpa himself. And we also talked about, like, for Shivalinga, they actually use this, what we call as Padaga in Telugu, the coiled snake on him as an ornament. So that is all representing the Kundalini Shakti and her coils. And we talked about how she travels, and we talked about Kaulini, Kulayogini, and all of that. And we talked about Samayacharam, which is the union of Shiva and Shakti and not differentiating Shakti versus Shiva and the other way around. So we talked about that, and we talked about Dakshinacharam, Vamacharam, and things like that, right? So while this travel is happening in Mooladharam, as mother travels, there is a Granthi, and some say the Granthi itself is in Mooladharam, or some say the Granthi is in Swadhisthana, depending on different books. So I always get confused which one to take. So apologies, I don't know exactly what it is. But there is a Granthi called Brahma Granthi. And there are reasons why they say it is in Swadhisthana. So Brahma Granthi is related to, Brahma is related to creation, and Brahma Granthi is about creation or acquisition. So all our desires about, oh, I want to acquire more, I want more, on one side, and the sexual desires on procreation and the progeny and things like that. So they are all in the Brahma Granthi. So while she's doing, like, traveling, as she travels, she removes these knots. So that vibhedanam karoti means, like, she just unties those knots, so things can move forward. Wherever we have a knot, think about our garden hose. If it has a knot, the water won't flow. So for the energy to flow, this vibhedanam has to be completed in order for us to move forward. So if our focus has been on acquiring more, then our focus can be on moksha. So our focus has been on artha, right? Like, in the purusharthas, dharma, artha, so dharma comes first, of course, but we all start with, I want to acquire something, then I want to enjoy what I have acquired, and then if I have any time remaining, if I have something that I can spare, then I'm going to do dharma, and moksha I'll see even after I retire. So in that concept, that Brahma Granthi Vibhedanam has to be completed for the Kundalini to travel further, and that travel actually takes the sadhaka move forward in their spiritual progress. Moving to the next one, Manipuranta Rudita Vishnu Granthi Vibhedini. So I don't know why I keep saying there are one namas each. There are I'll go back to Nama split. I'm so sorry. 38th shloka. Each of these each quartlet is a different Nama. So Mooladhara Ekanilaya, Brahma Grandhi Vibhetini, Manipurantarudita, Vishnu Grandhi Vibhetini, Atnya Chakrantaralastha, Rudra Grandhi Vibhetini. They are all like 6 Namas there. I combine them and study them together. Okay. So Manipurantarudita. So she is traveling through the Manipura, and we've talked about the chakras. This is the navel chakra in the navel area. And there she is actually doing the, and then after that, Vishnu Granthi Vibhedanam happens in Anahata Chakra. Vishnu Granthi is about retention, enjoying, like, I want whatever I've acquired, I want to make sure that I'm not losing them. So I'm going to continue my focuses on retaining what I have got. So a lot of energy goes in getting something new, and then a lot of energy we put into is oh, I just got a fantastic new job. Until I got a job, I was just looking for something, and I got a job. Now my focus and energy is on how to retain that job so I don't get fired. So our energies go into these kind of activities, and the same thing with multiple other things. I've acquired $1 million, and now I have to figure out how to make them 2 million, but at the same time I'm also not losing this $1 million. So she also unties that knot of Vishnu Granthi in the Anahata Chakra. And Vishnu, as we know, is for sustenance. So we have to go beyond creation, beyond sustenance, and beyond dissolution as well. In the Ajna Chakra, she is also in the Ajna Chakra. Now as she moves upwards, and getting to Ajna Chakra itself is like, a big deal. Actually having her start the travel itself is impossible, and there is like lots of other sadhanas. Maybe I'll speak about something in terms of how to, like there is an approach, so I'll speak about that briefly. So she is in the Ajna Chakra, and there she does the Rudra Grandhi Vibhedanam. And Om Swami in this book, actually he talks about that in a different light. He says this is the most harmful of all the other granthis. And the reason being, these are self-deprecating, self-doubting. Is this even a path? Am I being foolish that I'm actually giving up on all of these things, and I'm actually not even enjoying my life? And is this the right path to do? Is this the right guru? Do I even call this person my guru? Is whatever he's teaching, is it really correct? Like all of these doubts, self-doubting too. Should I even spend this much in meditation? Nothing is happening. So all of these doubts that continue to pull the person down. Or on the other side, they actually I'm not doing enough. I have to do more. I have to look for something else. So that continuous search for something, that urge, that rajasic nature, depending on if it is like the person's gunas are primarily on the tamasic side, if they overbalance the other two gunas, then they go into, do I really need to do this more? Or if they are on the rajasic side, then they would be continuously looking for, oh, I need to find something new. I need to find some other guru. Oh, I have something else that's happening. Oh, there is a book. I want to read that book. Oh, there is this sadhana. Somebody is telling me about this sadhana. I want to do this. Oh, something else is happening. So that continuous looking for something and doubting themselves. That's where I think what Om Swami says is many people fall off. Even at that stage. Yes, Bhavaniji, I'm recording it. Even at that stage, that continuous, there is no guarantee that things will move forward, because Maya always plays its role, and it's about how do we continue to be focused, and when in Bhagavad Gita we have seen Bhagavan talk about ekagra chitta manasa, right? That's samatvam and all of those practical approaches in Bhagavad Gita applying in life. And how do we take this forward? So there, as she travels, she can do Rudra Granthi Vibhedanam. And just imagine, by chanting these shlokas, that travel actually happens, and the untying is happening, whether somebody has diksha and whatnot. Like even merely chanting Lalita Sahasranamam is a sadhana tool. Actually, it gets us to that point. And then Sahasraram Bhujarudha, she mounts. Arudha means to mount. So she mounts on the Sahasraram, and that's when the Shiva Shakti Aikyam happen. And then, so basically what they're saying is, in the Brahma Granthi Vibhedanam, we get rid of the Sthula Sharira Bhavam. So I am not this body becomes super clear. In the Vishnu Granthi Vibhedanam, the Sukshma Sharira Vibhedanam happens, where I also realize that I'm not this mind and I'm not this Sukshma Sharira. And in the Rudra Granthi Vibhedanam, even this Karana Shariram, my karmas and all of those, even that Karana Shariram, that also we get rid of. And then now what am I left with? Like if I've gotten rid of my Stula, Sukshma and Karana Shariras, my Jagrad, Sushupti and like my Swapna and Sushupti Sthithis, then what I am is nothing but Shiva, the consciousness. So when she reaches that point, that ananda that somebody gets, knowing themselves to be or realizing themselves to be the consciousness himself, who is nothing but Satchidananda Swarupam, that ananda will shower Sudhasara Abhivarshini. So she drenches us in that happiness, in that Amrutam, which is also, like, you can take the other component, ambrosia. It is not something that we do sadhana to get that ambrosia, that amruta shravam, but it is the ananda that one feels when we reach. And this is a stage, in different terminology than savikalpa samadhi, than the nirvikalpa samadhi when you talk about the yogic formats and things like that. So it is that Aikya Bhavam. Even in meditation, we can experience this as we go past the consciousness of our bodies and the minds and the sense organs and everything, and you go beyond all of this into that state of consciousness and be aware of that consciousness and be the awareness itself. Then that happiness that you experience is the Sudhasarabhi Varshini. Then Tatillata Samaruchihi. This one I'm just going to. Bright as the light of, so as the flash of lightning is from Taittiriya Aranyakam. So what we say is Sahasraram is 1,000-petaled lotus, and it shines as if there are 1,000 crore suns, is what they say, or 1,000 suns in two different descriptions. So by going through all of these modes, people experience different colors, is what's explained in Shatchakra Nirupanam and in Saubhagya Lakshmi Upanishad. And there are different colors that are given to the adharas, and we talked about those colors when we were talking about the adharas. By going through it, that flash of the blazing 1,000 suns, that kind of lightning that happens, and lightning has a significance in lots of meditation methodologies. Lightning is Bhagavan, and seen in Kenopanishad, when Mother Goddess comes and tells more about Parabrahman. And there is a whole meditation methodology that was given that has, like, to focus on lightning, being able to see Bhagavan in lightning. So whenever I personally love thunderstorms, so I can actually hear the roars and lightnings. So I experience a lot of ananda when I see that. So that meditation gives you those to experience that lightning along with the ambrosia, and that is the Tatillata Samaruchi and Shatchakra Upari Samsthita. So she is sitting on top of, like, way above the 6 chakras. Did that make sense in terms of process? They are a combination together. Mahashaktihi. So there are a few meanings. I've not heard of this first one. That's why I'm a little, I don't know why I don't recollect this. It says greatly attached to festivals. Festival means the union of Shiva and Shakti in the Sahasrara. That's what I know. So Mahashaktihi. So when the Shakti has traveled all the way and merged with consciousness, the Jiva Shakti has become the Mahashakti, the Tejo Swarupam. That approach, that timeline, or sorry, that state is called as Mahashakti, as the sadhakas travel to that point. And Kundalini, and we've talked about Kundalini. This is where the shining tejas, vital energy, which is the manifestation of life, is called Kundalini, which resides in the center of the flames of the fire of Muladhara. It's the same example that same thing that we've been talking about in the Kulangana Kulantasta. So that Kundalini is Bisatantu Taniyasi, as fine as the fiber of the lotus stalk. So as we have talked about things, these are in Sukshma Rupam, and they're not, if somebody, and does a dissection of the body, they won't be able to see the nadis or the chakras. So similarly, Kundalini, they say, is the 1,000th of the tip of the hair. So it's a very thin stalk, as thin as fine as fiber of the lotus stalk. So that is the aperture is that thin in all the chakras. And there is the we talked about the Sushumna, Ida, Pingala nadis. In the Sushumna nadi, Sushumna nadi is embedded in Chitra nadi, and Chitra nadi is embedded in another Sushumna nadi. In the middle of the center Sushumna nadi is a thin aperture through which the mother Kundalini has to travel, and that is the only way. So there are lots of methodologies and processes that are given on how to activate this Kundalini, and there are so many different pranayama methodologies and everything. There is a whole science in it, but it's a simple methodologies. I don't know if we spoke about Swara Yoga. Can anybody remind me if we did?
I don't remember hearing that.
Okay. So there is something called as Swara Yoga. Swara means breath. And so we talked about the nadis. There are 72,000 nadis. In another book, it is 350,000, 54,000 nadis. But 72 is the most popular, most common number that gets used. And in these, there are 114 nadis that are more popular. Then there is the 27 number, then there is a 10, and there is 3, and there is 1. And the one nadi that is the most important for moksha sadhakas, people on the path of moksha, is the Sushumna nadi. And the two complementary nadis that support this, more important after the Sushumna nadi, are the Ida and Pingala. And we talked about that, and even when we were talking about mothers, kundalas, and things like that. So Ida nadi, and a lot of you have done great presentations on those nadis as well during the Antarartham Patartham sessions. So there is a whole cycle of how the breath shifts from the right nostril to left nostril. And if you close your eyes and observe your breath, you realize that you are not breathing from both nostrils at the same strength. So one of the nostrils is doing more of a job at that time than the other. So this one is very easy for anybody to observe. So just close your eyes and just quietly just focus on your breath, and you'll be able to observe it. So one of the nadis is more at work than the other at that time. So based on this, there is a whole science on how to activate. For example, before food, they activate the Pingala nadi, so there is heat generated in the body, so the digestion happens faster. Before sleeping, they activate the Ida nadi, so the body cools down and gets more rest. So there are throughout the day, I think there is a whole concept of the extremes of if my nadi is not, the right nadi is not active. Can somebody mute, please? There is some. Okay. So there's a whole science, and people take it to the extremes, obviously. But what happens is they say every, I forget the exact number, 48 or something around the 60, something of that sort. These many minutes, let's say X minutes, the Ida nadi is active. And then for 4 minutes, Sushumna nadi is active. And then after that, that X minutes, Pingala nadi is active. And then the 4 minutes, Sushumna nadi, both nadis are active at the same time. When we say Sushumna nadi, both are active at the same time. And when both are active at the same time, that's when Sushumna gets activated. So, and you will observe that as you're doing the sadhana, when you're doing your puja, if you are in that mode of doing it while in Sushumna, your focus for that meditation, for that puja, is much higher than if one of the other nadis are active. So if the Ida nadi is active, for example, when you're doing your meditation, you might feel sleepy. If your Pingala nadi is active while you're doing your meditation, your thoughts are all over the place and you're distracted. So that's the reason why before starting any puja, we are used to it, we do Achamanam with Keshava Narayana, and right after that they say Pranayamam. And with Pranayama, by focusing on just observing which nadi is active or which nostril is active at that time, and ensuring the other nostril is also active by just doing nadi shodhana pranayama with the Rechaka, Puraka and Kumbhaka, then you make sure that they are balanced so that you're breathing equally from both of your nostrils. That's when your mind will concentrate more, because the Sushumna is getting, the Sushumna nadi is active at that time. Did I go too fast on that? Is this concept more familiar so I can move to the next one, or are there any questions? This is a sadhana that I would encourage everybody to observe as you practice today.
Shri, can you just summarize that again once, please?
Also, can you elaborate on like how do you make both nadis active, like to be in Sushumna mode?
Okay, so we'll do a little practical. So what I will say to all of you is just, if you take some 30 seconds, we'll just be quiet and close your eyes and observe which of the nostrils is active, and see if you're able to make a difference. And because we're only spending 30 seconds on this for the first time, if you have not done this before, don't be frustrated if you don't see it, but you can stretch, you can probably later practice it, but just focus, close your eyes and focus. Okay, if you have noticed it, fantastic. If you didn't feel it, the other way they'll say is just by holding your finger under the nostril, you can actually breathe. Don't force breathe, just continue to breathe as you were breathing before. You'd be able to sense it. But I personally don't use that methodology. I just focus, and that's how I'm used to doing it. Now, once you have known that, we always say pranayama starts from breathing completely out and take it from left nostril. And this is the mudra that we do for pranayama, what I have been taught. So I'm assuming many of you are a lot more familiar with pranayama than I am, but this is what I know. So with this, you hold your right nostril and breathe only from left nostril. As deep as you can. And then with these two fingers, you close your left nostril and exhale with your right nostril. And we inhale with your right nostril and then exhale with your left nostril. So alternate breathing. So if you do it for sometimes, when you're just starting the sadhana, it might take 5 minutes before you start feeling like both the nostrils are activated. So what happens in this scenario is, if your left nostril is active at that time and your right nostril is dominant, by closing your left nostril, immediately the right nostril becomes activated and it has to do its job, right? So that's why, and there are so many different ways to do it, and if you put pressure, everybody knows yoga danda, right? The one that sannyasis and sadhus use to hold their hands and do the japam. holding it under the armpit, the other nadi gets activated. So there are different methodologies on how to do it. The easiest, simple, with no extra props required, is the pranayama method. And it actually slows your breath down too. So I wear a Fitbit, and I observe my nadi and, like, what my pulse rate is, and etc. etc. I do a lot of things. Just slow it down and calm your mind as you focus on your breath. So many different things happen. First, your thoughts go down significantly, and you're able to get into a mode of meditation. And then just make sure that when you continue to observe, after some time, both of your nostrils should be working equally. And that's when you know your Sushumna Nadi is getting activated, and you'd be able to concentrate a lot more. And that sadhana, or that puja, whatever you may be chanting, or whatever you may be doing, the physical puja, vachika puja, manasika puja, whatever, that even, like, your work, when you're doing that, it has, you are in the moment at that time, you are present at the moment, and the results you reap from it is much, much higher than what you would do if you were either distracted or you are not feeling your full energy. Did that help?
Yeah, Guruji. Thank you.
Okay, so this is the basics of Swara Yoga, and there is a lot more to it. So when we are breathing, all the 5 elements come into picture, and, like, depending on what element, like, Prithvi Tattvam is active versus the Apah Tattvam is active. There's so much to it. I don't practice a lot of that, but making sure that both nostrils are active is a must-do kind of an active job. Okay. Shall we move to the next set?
Yes, please.
So we've completed the first 40 shlokas of Lalita Sahasranamam, and I shouldn't be saying this, and I cringe whenever I say it. I'm not giving a shortcut, so please don't assume that But if you're not able to chant all the 182 shlokas of Lalita Sahasranamam, doing these 40 shlokas is amazing. Just at least do these 40 shlokas on a regular basis, because this is where we have seen the Saguna, Nirguna. There's so many, like, embedded Bijaksharas. We have seen the Panchadashi mantra in this. We have seen Guru Paduka mantras, and we've seen, like, the Granthi Bedhanam and the Kundalini travel. So there is a lot that is embedded in these 40 shlokas. So continue to chant these 40 if you don't get time for the 182. But there is a reason why Vagdevi's made it 182. There's a lot more coming, but at least these 40 try to practice on a daily basis. Okay, moving to the 41st shloka, and we will actually chant till the 42nd shloka, first half as well. So Bhavani Bhavanagamya Bhavaranya Kutharika is one nama, apologies. Bhavaranya Kutharika Bhadrapriya Bhadramurtihi Bhakta Saubhagya Dayini. So there are 3 namas in the first line, and then 3 namas in the second line. In the 42nd shloka, first line, Bhakta Priya, many people do, like, I've heard even master chanters chanting is Bhakti Priya. It is Bhakta Priya, Bhakti Gamya, Bhakti Vashya, Bhayapaha. So there are 4 namas in that one. So we'll take this as a set, and we'll chant till here. So who would like to chant with me the first?
I can chant, Sriji.
And notice there are so many bha, all bhas here. All the namas start with bha, which is the Mahaprana bha, not ba. So ensure, and this is very important, to ensure that that bha comes out really nicely. And I've mentioned this before, for many Mahapranas, you actually feel the vibration in the middle of your heart, the Anahata Chakra. And I also related it to fluoride deposits and things like that. Many sadhakas don't even drink water that has fluorine in it. I'm yet to get there. But this actually, they say that that vibration when you are chanting is supposed to remove that and clear your Anahata Chakra. Bhavani bhavanagamya bhavaranya kutarika.
Bhavani. Tula. Bhavani bhavanagamya bhavad. Bhavaranya kudarika.
So, sorry, was it Jayaramanji?
Huh?
Namaskaram. Sir, the bhas have to be a lot more emphasized, and kutarika is a tha, the second tha. Bhavani bhavanagamya bhavaranya kutarika. So it looks like you've muted yourself, sir. Jayaramanji, would you like to chant? Okay, Taraji, did you want to continue?
Sure. Bhavani bhavanagamya bhavaranya kutarika.
Bhadrapriya Bhadramurtir Bhakta Saubhagyadayini.
Bhadrapriya Bhadramurtir Bhakta Saubhagyadayini.
Awesome. Bhakta Priya Bhakti Gamya Bhakti Vashya Bhayapaha.
Bhakti Priya Bhakti Gamya Bhakti Vashya Bhayapaha.
You did what I was saying mostly, like, everybody does it. The first one is Bhakta Priya, not Bhakti Priya.
Okay.
Bhakta Priya Bhakti Gamya Bhakti Vashya Bhayapaha.
Bhakta Priya Bhakti Gamya Bhakti Vashya Bhayapaha.
Awesome. So we'll chant all three together. And
Sriji,
notice, like, when you're...
Sriji, in the first line, is it Bhavaranya Hraswa or Dirkha? I have it Bhavaranya and Dirkham. Is it?
No, it is Rasvam. It is Rasvam.
Hraswa.
Bhavaranya Kutarika.
Okay, thank you.
And Shriji, in my book, it says Bhadra Saubhagyadayini.
Bhadra Saubhagyadayini. Never heard that variation.
Okay. So
Yeah,
I'll change it to Bhakta, right?
Yeah, Bhakta Saubhagyadayini.
Thank you.
Let me see. I believe Bhaskara Raya also does that. Let me see one more translation. See if they have seen a different one. I have not heard that. Bhakti Vashya Bhayapaha. Yeah, it is Bhakta Saubhagyadayini in the second different translation that I'm referring to as well. Comment. Okay. So we'll do all three lines together, Taraji.
Okay.
And notice when you're trying to focus on that bha very specifically, it just becomes difficult. So take it easy, but just make sure that, and actually many people lose breath because they're just so focused on that bha.
Yeah.
Bhavani bhavanagamya bhavaranya kutarika. Bhadrapriya Bhadramurtir Bhakta Saubhagyadayini. Bhakta Priya Bhakti Gamya Bhakti Vashya Bhayapaha.
Bhavani Bhavanagamya Bhavaranya Kutarika. Bhadrapriya Bhadramurtir Bhakta Saubhagyadayini. भक्तप्रिया भक्तिगम्या भक्तिवश्या भयापहा.
Awesome. Thank you. Anybody else want to try that verse?
Try, Sriji.
Please go ahead.
भवानी भावनागम्या भवारण्यकुठारिका भद्रप्रिया भद्रमूर्तिर्भक्तसौभाग्यदायिनी भक्तप्रिया भक्तिगम्या भक्तिवश्या भयापहा.
Awesome. Fantastic. Loved it. Anybody else?
Sriji.
Please go ahead.
Bhavani bhavanagamya bhavaranya kutarika bhadra priya bhadramurtir bhakta saubhagya daini bhakta priya bhakti gamya bhakti vashya bhayapaha.
Awesome.
Sriji,
I got you.
lot of breath.
Yeah, and you can actually stop at the end of each line and take a breath. And so when we focus on Mahaprana very specifically, whenever I say that, I observe in most of my chanting classes that everybody just loses breath because their focus is on the Mahaprana, the concept of it, not the number of syllables. It's just that the breath, that additional breath that takes up. That's why I was saying that it has emphasis on the Anahata chakra, because that's where the breath is coming from, right? And we've talked about Yam Bijam for Anahata chakra, and they have a relationship. So chanting it nicely will help us, our sadhana.
Sriji, can I ask a question?
Please.
I mean, going back to, you said at least if you don't have time, do the first 40 slokas, right? So, can you just do 40 and stop it? Or is there a, Kshama stotra you have to do at the end? Or
If you feel like, right? To me, even if you chanted one mantra or one bijakshara, you're still calling mother's name. So, for example, of all the so many 182 slokas and 1008 namas of mother, I could only be saying Shri, and it is still calling her. So what this helps is just, there are so many things when we are chanting, the vibrations and everything, whether it is the external vibrations of the sound that fill your house, or the internal vibrations that are happening, or the manasika vrittis that are happening when we chant. There is a benefit. That's why they just did not give us one Om. Otherwise they could have given us just Om and said the whole Veda is just say Om and nothing else. So I personally think there is no need for doing Kshama Prarthana or things like that. That's just me. If you feel like doing it, absolutely. But there is benefit in doing, there is a reason why there are 182. But if you have limited time, and if mother is giving you only so much time, not just to run to watch a movie serial or a TV serial or something, but if that is what you want to continue to practice, and I want to focus on this and do it very focusedly, and this is my sadhana, I don't think she'll mind. That's my personal opinion.
Thank you.
Any final thoughts before we conclude? And we'll take this whole set, and hopefully we'll be able to finish this whole set next week. Okay, hearing none, let's conclude with the Shanti Mantra. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Sarvam Sri Paradevata Arpanamastu. Thank you so much for your time. We'll catch up next week.
Thank you so much, Sriji.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Guruji.
much, Sriji.
So much, Guruji.
Thank you.